we get 1,000 subs on this episode, Sam will come back as the Skin Lord in the next episode.
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
I want to hear the 2 notes.
Just give them 2 notes. Just give them. How do they know what they're gonna buy if
I'll
you
give you
can't
the
give
notes
them 2
separately,
notes?
but not together.
All right, let's hear them separately.
I don't know how to do that. I'll be honest. I can only
Sam,
do it.
just give
I
them like
trust
one.
in
Give
time-
them one word.
No.
If we change the
Give them a
subject,
sample, dude.
if we change the subject, I bet the Skin Lord.
I
will.
almost
You
promised
can't-
never.
you
I
can't-
promised never to do this
listen.
in real life. I even told Casey and Clint, I'm never going to tell you how I did this.
In a
voice.
golden spoon or in a cold stone, you walk in there, you can ask for a sample before you buy.
I would like to have one sample of your finest ice cream.
All right, so there you go. That's coming up. It's coming up.
Man.
Wow. What a week we've had, guys. We're going to Austin, Texas next week.
Yep.
Tell you all about that. And this week, a lot of things are happening. A lot of things have happened this week. We've got an Article 13 passes in the EU. We've got a crazy situation with this Jussie Smollett thing. We've got copycat Prim Tech channels and much, much more. So, wow. What do you guys want to start with?
Wow,
Article
let's start
13?
with Article 13.
Okay.
Article 13.
Nico's been on this one. Let me just tell you, the EU passed on Tuesday the article, the
It's called Article 13.
legislation. Yeah, the legislation that includes Article 13, which so it's not law yet. Basically, it has to go to the European Council, and then the European Council needs to approve it, which they said they will, and then it takes 2 years to implement. So basically, in 2 years, this is going to be EU law. Now, what is it? It's been opposed by tech companies because it says that it requires them to build really expensive content filters and stop linking publications and to have to come up with all these different deals with content companies.
But what is it though?
What is it?
Yeah, so
Like, what does it say? That's the good question.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Article 13 is the European legislation that basically requires content companies such as Google, Facebook, to provide either come to agreements with traditional media companies or to come up with better measures that keep their stuff off of platforms, basically to prevent copyright infringement, to bring copyright law into the 21st century.
I mean,
that's what it's intended to do.
Even bigger picture,
It's
basically.
the European version of the DMCA.
Yes, exactly. Big picture is they're trying to stop copyright infringement, and so this is the latest measure in doing so. But what it does is it usually, from what I believe, it is putting the blame on the provider or the host of the content rather than the user who was infringing.
Yes, so that's
Kind of,
the
yes.
core that I was struggling to get to. Thank you, Sam, because I did not get there. But that's basically, yeah, it puts liability on the host. So if you're a YouTube user, you upload copyright infringing content onto YouTube. This provision is now saying that YouTube should in part be liable for that to the owner of the copyright.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
So Niko's got some good insights on this. I think you should take this from here, Niko.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth real quickly touching upon before we get too deep into that stuff that there's a lot of talk around Article 13 and it's been a great opportunity for journalists to scare everybody.
To wet their whistle, to sharpen their teeth.
Big tech
to
hates
practice.
it. Memes are going to be banned. EU bad.
Yeah.
EU bad.
I'm not saying
memes
Article
good.
13 is good or bad, by the way. I'm just pointing out that there's a lot. I mean, we have a headline pulled
We'll
up
get
here.
there. We'll get to the goods and bads at the
Yeah.
end.
Europe just passed sweeping new copyright rules that
Big
big tech hates.
Ooh, big tech.
Let's unroll this
Angry
carpet.
computer
Let's
man.
unroll this carpet slowly. And
Yeah. So I think the very first thing to do here is we got our very own lawyer sitting in the seat right next to me.
Woo.
We got the wording of the law itself. So guys, let's all be informed. Let's not just take journalists' words for it. Let's not just read memes and assume that's what tells us what it is. Let's read the article itself.
I get my news from memes. Thank you.
All right.
I get my news from Reddit comments. Thank you very much.
So, we have the actual article here. There's two parts. One is the text proposed by the commission, and one is an amendment. And being not entirely familiar with EU law, I'm not exactly sure which one gets presented to the European Council. So I'll just give you a summary of the total of, because most of it's the same. There's only like slight differentiations in language. But basically, it says this. Information society service providers that store and provide to the public access of large amounts of works on other subject matter uploaded by their users, aka YouTube, Google, shall, in cooperation with rights holders, take measures to ensure the functioning of agreements concluded with the rights holders for the use of their works on the platforms, effectively. So saying YouTube and Facebook need to come to agreements with rights holders on the use of those works on their platforms. That's all it says for the first part of it. Now, later it says, those measures, such as the use of effective content recognition technologies, shall be appropriate and proportional. The service providers shall provide rights holders with adequate information on the functioning and deployment of those measures, as well, when relevant, adequate reporting on the recognition and use of the works and other subject matters. So they'll give them data, basically, on how the algorithms and the content ID systems are functioning,
as well as how much your work might have been shared.
Right. Yeah. And then beyond that, it says that if people don't want their stuff on the platforms, then they need to make sure they have provisions to prevent stuff from being published on the platforms, and they also need to provide basically means of arbitration to those what is the word they used?
Redress?
No, well, yeah, to redress grievances, yeah, but to the content owners. Mm-hmm. So,
is that it?
That's it.
That's it.
That's what it says. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's basically it. Like, there's some other like little bits and bobs of verbiage, but ultimately, like, the core of it, that's what it is, and that's what it says. So the big complaint was that it's too broad, but it's very broad.
Pretty broad.
But at the same time, all it's saying is, hey, you guys should probably come to agreements with rights holders for people uploading copyright infringing content. So the question is, like, is it time for YouTube and Google and the Facebooks of the world to finally step up and say, okay, as the hosts of this content, should we finally be liable for this?
I think I just want to briefly, right before I answer that question, we jump into that, just want to point out, like, my initial reaction to reading that is it sounds pretty reasonable. I'm not going to lie. Like, maybe it can get interpreted in a bunch of different ways, and it can get interpreted in a bunch of negative ways. But to me, it sounds kind of identical to what we already have in America, which is copyright holders need a way to get their work pulled off of a site if they want it, pulled off of a site.
Hence the DCMA takedown.
And sites need to have a function in place to do so. It seems completely reasonable.
Niko, how could you?
People have come up with horror stories about how now this means, like, everybody needs to, like, pay a fee if they're going to upload anything to YouTube, and you need to, like, everything's going to be closed and memes will be banned. Like, I'm not seeing any of that in this article.
I don't see the meme thing.
Well, you're going to upload copyright infringed stuff that's all banned now, but, like, maybe there's more to it than what was there. But
are we missing something, guys? I feel like we're missing something. I don't see the connection between all the opinion articles.
I have the document in front of me.
This is from the official European Parliament website.
Right.
That is it. You read Article 13?
Article 13.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yes. I just summarized it.
Well,
I'm not going to sit here for an hour and read,
what's
like...
this right here?
Okay, there's, like, more stuff about how to go about this. Okay, let me go through this.
All right, well... I can talk while you read.
Let me read.
I don't know, because this kind of drives this conversation to a halt if that's it.
I'm going to tell a story while Jake reads this. So, remember when Facebook was like going real hard on Facebook video, and like they started auto playing videos, and just like
Yeah.
you could see the numbers just ballooning up there.
Yeah.
People were going hard stealing our content and re-uploading it to their Facebook pages, because Facebook was blocking YouTube links. People would rip our videos off YouTube and just upload it on Facebook video, and they would cut out all our watermarks. They cut out our end cards. So clearly it was a intentional. It wasn't just like, oh, this is a cool video, I'll share it. It was an intentional, I'm going to take this video, clip off all of their stuff, and promote myself with it. And that was pretty frustrating. Now, we would go through we still do this all the time, but we'd go through the Facebook copyright, thing to get it taken down. But, of course, in this process, Facebook is making money off the ads playing against our videos. And, they'd eventually take it down, and we'd ask them to, but they'd keep all that ad revenue that they made from our content. And our content over and over and over, millions and millions and millions of views. I'm not talking like 2 or 3 million. I'm talking
Hundreds
like
of millions.
50 million, 100
Yeah,
million.
I'd say we've lost anywhere between $25,000 to $75,000 from copyright infringement on Facebook.
Yeah.
In AdSense.
So Facebook just gets to keep that money. And they're not punished when it happens again and again and again. Like when we pull the same video 15 times, Facebook, they're just like, okay, we could try to take them to small claims court or some BS like that. Of course, that's not worth it or going to lead to anything.
Right.
And so the part of me that went through that experience is like, oh wait, Facebook itself will be liable for hosting our copyrighted material, and not just the users that did it, but like the site that's enabling it and not really taking any steps to stop it. Part of me's like, heck yeah.
Yeah, so that's like, the internet, is it to a point of maturity now where the distribution mediums that have been fostered since the dawn of what was that site? The original music sharing site?
LimeWire.
No, before LimeWire. Napster. Since the dawn of Napster, when basically the music industry fell apart in a period of 3 years in the early 2000s, has that come to a point of maturity where it's time to consider these not as like bastardized second-rate distribution mediums, but as the distribution mediums of the future, which they ultimately and realistically are, and to treat them accordingly?
I mean, I think when you have companies that are worth billions and billions of dollars building their entire infrastructure off of the content of its users, the company being required to not just get away scot-free off that content that they didn't create, but, making out of it with billions of dollars, it seems like there might need to be a rule in place for that. But when I initially heard about Article 13, what it sounded like to me was just somebody trying to apply old laws to new art, which is a very different thing, The internet has democratized art, has democratized filmmaking, music, and all that kind of stuff. And this sounded like it was going to stop all that and try to clamp it back down so that only big media companies had control over it again.
Yeah. I'm trying to find like an analogy that makes sense to me, because like I've gone through a couple here, like to try and put this into perspective. One is, imagine you have a big house or a big room, and you allow anyone to go into this room. Anyone. I've made this big warehouse. Anyone can go into it.
Right.
And before long, people start going into your warehouse, committing crimes, people reporting the crimes. You're like, sorry.
Right.
Sorry. I mean,
It's
like,
a
I'm not
public warehouse.
I said anyone can come in here. I'm not going to like control, or like, I'll say, I'll put a rules list up on the wall.
Right.
And maybe I'll kick people out occasionally. But yet the cops are still getting dozens of reports that people are getting like molested and beat up in this room. Right. And I'm still sitting here going like, whatever, man. It's like I posted the rules, Yeah,
you'd be thrown in jail.
So yeah, your place would get shut down.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like the digital version of that, where you have an open free space where anyone can come in. Now, that analogy is like kind of works, but it kind of doesn't, because we're talking about physical things here. We're not talking about ideas, which are super subjective, and it's just a completely different realm entirely,
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
I mean, this does make accommodation for existing copyright law and existing, like, it's not saying that this now takes authority over fair use and things like that. It's saying like just
fair use is an American law, by the way.
Right, but there's versions of it in Europe. So this is all like kind of like administrative nonsense. The main portion of it is right here. There's another. I'll just read it. I'll read another section from the amendment side. Licensing agreements, which are concluded by online content sharing service providers with rights holders, shall cover the liability for works uploaded by the users of such online content. Yeah.
So really, they're saying that the hosts are liable for the copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you know what? And I think I completely agree with it the more I think about it. Because you look at these companies like Facebook and Google, and they're making billions of dollars. They have CEOs that are making millions and millions and flying, and they got the private jets and planes and yachts and stuff like that. And without their user base, they would not have a single dollar.
And those companies control, Facebook and Google control, what, 85% of all digital ad money?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, they're taking. So it's not like we can't do this because it's going to stifle new up and coming business. Those businesses are now to a point of maturity.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, it's basically doubling down on the existing laws, really. It's not like a new idea necessarily. It's just saying, hey, remember copyright and that concept? Well, like we mean it this time.
Yeah, and there is this instinct in tech specifically that they shouldn't be treated like everyone else. And it's a double-edged sword. Like, sometimes it benefits us, sometimes it benefits others, sometimes it hurts us, sometimes it hurts others. But the point is, like, there is a philosophy in all these tech companies where it's like, well, why do we need to be treated that way? But at the same time, Niko, last week we were talking about Uber, and you were saying how, well, maybe they shouldn't look at Uber like a transportation company. Maybe they need to look at them like an entirely new thing.
Yeah.
So, that's also worthy to note here.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. And
Trying to always like shoehorn a new technology into old rules, it doesn't really get you very far.
yeah, like calling a company a tech company, it's just like, okay, like tech, like
Right. What does that even mean?
what does that even mean
Yeah.
anymore? Like, there's technology in everything around me except my clothes and this mug.
Well, there's
you know?
technology in your clothes too. It's
Yeah.
like water resistant, the way that it was
I
created.
guess they use the
It's got-
computer.
It was made with
Well,
technology.
this is actually
Yeah.
this is a bad example because this is surplus. But like this mug, for example, they had to use a computer at some point. Maybe
Yeah.
they had like Excel and they made their own custom spreadsheet to figure out how to track inventory. So
Right.
they're kind of a tech company.
Using
Yeah.
technology is
They use
basically-
computers, It's a tech
Yeah, it's a tech company.
I mean, honestly, the definition of technology is applied, technology. It was something like applied education into like creating efficiency for better production of goods. Or something
Jared,
like
can
that.
you look up the definition of technology?
Technology. Let's open it with
But
this.
also,
technology.
I was just thinking about the saying. You said double-edged sword earlier, and like the whole saying of a double-edged sword, the metaphor implies that you hit somebody with your sword and then it bounces back and hits you.
Does it?
Yeah. A double-edged
I thought
sword
it
just
meant it
means
cuts
it
both
means you can-
ways.
it cuts both ways.
Yeah, exactly. But it cuts your enemies both ways. It doesn't cut you both. Like it's
It's
like
like a double-
I'll cut you and it cuts me too. It's like no. It just means I can get guys on both sides of me.
What?
I don't have to spin my sword
Okay,
around.
hold-
Like a
hold on.
double-barrel shotgun.
Everyone knows that a double-edged sword mean it can benefit you, but it can also
Niko,
hurt.
He's
you.
making
Right.
a joke. He's making a joke.
Right.
Everyone
Okay.
knows what the
But it
phrase
implies
means.
that your handling of the sword means that you hit somebody and then it bounces back and it hits you.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being able to swing it at both
All right,
sides.
definition of technology. It's from Greek, tech, art and craft, and logia, meaning system,
Wait, right here.
systematic.
The application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry.
Oh, that's what a good definition.
Yeah, I was pretty close.
Application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. Okay,
Mhm.
so really a
Synergy,
technology
basically.
company is
Every
any.
company.
So a technology
Dynamics.
company, though, then should probably be classified by the practical purpose for which the knowledge is applied, not by the scientific knowledge itself. Which is what my argument was for Uber, is that let's
So
judge them by the industry in
so
which
they're-
they operate, not
So
by.
they're social media companies.
I mean,
right?
technically, you could call Uber a social media company.
Well, yeah, but it's not.
You have a
Users
profile.
creating. They're not creating and uploading media.
I guess so.
You know, and Facebook is a thing where people create and upload media, whether it's as view as a single word or a photo or a video. YouTube is just videos. Twitter, it is ideas and text. But once again, it's media is basically the it's like it's making ideas tangible. That's what media is basically, right?
Well,
It's making an idea literal, and
media
whether
literally
through text or audio or visual or whatever.
Yeah, it literally refers to the medium upon which you're presenting the idea.
Yeah,
media.
So yeah, I mean,
do you guys see Article 13 as hurting quote unquote the little guy?
Could.
How?
If your meme gets banned.
Well, I mean, let's see. So like, let's say we make a video, right? And or no, let's just say like someone in some random state starts a YouTube channel. They make something, and for some reason it gets copywritten, right? Or it has the potential to. But then, what if someone else like a bigger company, right, takes that and is like, "Oop, we like that. Whoop, we're gonna take that," and they profit off of it. And they're so small, their YouTube presence is so tiny that it's insignificant, and they're totally cheated out. And it's like this bigger company took this idea that they came up with, and
They took the idea that the little guy came up with.
Yes.
But wouldn't this copyright protection benefit that little guy?
So does the little guy have a voice? Does the little guy be like, "Hey, I made this thing, and Google or Facebook is profiting off of this right now, but I make videos in my basement."
I feel like this.
Well, technically, I mean, they might miss that because what this is advocating for is licensing agreements between rights holders and the distribution companies.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you're a SoundCloud artist and you're just SoundCloud artist, little SoundClouder, right? little cloud, then you're probably not signed with a record label or a rights distribution company. But, if you say you're distributing your content through DistroKid or any other of the online distribution companies, and as part of that, Google makes an agreement with DistroKid, and since you distribute through them, you're okay. You can protect your rights through them because now they've signed an agreement. But if you're 100% independent somehow, I don't know. There's a lot of ambiguity, which is what a lot of the opposite opinion of what we're sort of presenting here is saying, is exactly what you're saying, Clint. So it could do that. I'd be more concerned that if you created something, I guess people are already ripping off people, So like if a big company rips off a little guy, that's sort of already happening. So I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily the main concern that I would have with it, but.
Yeah. I don't know. I think fundamentally, though, at a basic level, it's like when you are dealing with the concept of media in this realm, you need flexibility to repurpose and recycle ideas and content and remix stuff and evolve it and grow it.
Parodies.
And it's like once again, this law we're still figuring out the ambiguities here with what it actually entails, but ultimately, I think it's just a moral stance. It's like when you're dealing with copyright, you want to make sure that you do have your provisions, allow things to expire, allow that wiggle room, whether it's fair use or et cetera, like however it can be legally repurposed still, because the moment you start clamping it down too much and actually like trying to control these ideas, then I think you're doing humanity a pretty big disservice. So if they start actually going, if it does get to that level where like the memes, that we all care about, can't be uploaded and are being banned, then I have to say yes, this is bad. But unfortunately, right now, I don't see get a sense of that happening at the moment. It seems like it's really just doubling down on the laws that are currently existing. Yeah,
from my interpretation of what I've seen of the law itself is basically saying sites that host user-generated content need to have in place a way for people who happen to own a copyright for something that was uploaded illicitly. They need to have a system in place for those people who own that copyright or that license to have that content removed.
and be compensated basically,
or profit off of it.
or profit off it. So in other words, exactly what's already on YouTube.
Under the DMCA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
except
Under American law. This is European law. But
Right.
I don't think you can. Let's say a video gets take 1 million views with ads on it, and I own the copyright to it. I don't get the money they made.
you don't get the money they made, but
You can
Because
claim it
you-
from thereafter, though.
you can claim it from thereafter. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get the ad revenue.
Yeah, but
from
see, and
point
that I think
forwards.
that's kind of what this is addressing.
But
It seems like
this does have provisions for. I mean, it does say in it too, like, as possible. It has, like, there's a lot of like disclaimers saying as is reasonable, as is possible, as makes sense,
Technologically
as is
feasible.
proportional. Like,
sure, yeah,
you
that
know.
makes sense. But thankfully, they keep really good records of who gets what. So
yeah. But if the
thankfully,
money,
it's all in a spreadsheet.
if that money's already paid out,
That's
then
their
you can't
tech
just
company.
go and get it back. I mean, I think
obviously,
there's-
but that takes 60 to 90 days.
Sure.
Question. So
Anyways, yeah.
let's say we make a video, we upload it.
Mhm.
We own copyright to that.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Just
you-
by the fact
just
that
by creating
we
your art-
uploaded it.
No, not
Yes.
even uploading it. Just creating it gives you
Just-
the copyright to
yeah.
your work.
Okay.
As soon as you create something that has a modicum of creativity, you own the copyright to whatever you just created.
So you can take someone to court based off of like, I did this first.
Yes.
Mhm.
You have to prove that you did it first.
Yes.
Yes.
Whether it be through an upload or through a letter that was sent
Right.
to yourself.
The example we
Yes.
always used in law school was the next great American novel that was shoved in someone's top dresser drawer that never came out, and it was like that was always the question: is it always came down to whether or not you could prove what you're saying. But yes, as soon as you manifest an idea into a tangible medium of expression that has a modicum of creativity, you've created something that's copyrightable.
Mm-hmm. So they're talking about putting a button on Facebook that says, "This video was mine. I'm going to claim this, and also I'm going to claim that I'm going to take action on this and request the money that you."
Yeah, so you
that
can
you
already
made.
do this on YouTube because the DMCA basically they wanted to set up a system to be in keeping with the DMCA, and we're already doing this actually. There's a lot of YouTube videos that are on there that are our videos that have been re-uploaded
Mhm.
that we're claiming the money on.
Yeah.
And for example, Warner Brothers Music is doing that with our Darth Santa video. Whether that's right or wrong, they're doing it
Because of
because of
Yeah,
the
they're
Star
getting all
Wars
the ad
soundtrack.
money on that video.
There's
Yeah.
a couple notes in there,
Yeah, because
Couple
of the
misplaced-
Star Wars soundtrack.
copywritten notes.
Dun,
See,
dun, 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 dun. That part.
That's
That's it.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty close though.
I mean, that is
It
the Imperial
is,
March.
Yeah.
but the question becomes, should they get the whole?
Yeah, should
all
they
the ad
get,
revenue?
should
That's
they
like a
get all
phone-
of it?
That's like saying my phone rings in this video, and then Apple claims the ads for
I
it.
think though, what's worth saying, I want to point out,
Yeah.
I will say, for aggressive copyright protection needs to be exactly matched by aggressive copyright expiration. Like if you're going to aggressively protect copyrights, you also need to aggressively pursue things becoming public domain.
Unlike Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, you can't go out there and be like, no one gets any of this copyrighted work forever. No, it needs to be like a patent where it's like, no one gets to use this, but in 20 years, everyone can use it.
Yeah,
It's yours for a little while, profit off it, run your business, and then it's the culture's.
but it's not like that, because basically my son, after I am dead and he is like 60 years old, he's still going to be making money off of our YouTube videos.
Well, yeah, it's the life of the author plus, I think, like 75 years.
Yeah, isn't that
or
crazy?
something.
Isn't that crazy to think of that in the year like 2100? Okay, in the year 2100, my aging feeble son is going to be making money off of the glitch.
He will.
He will be.
Yeah.
That's
Assuming
crazy.
YouTube is
Isn't
still
that?
around.
It's almost a little. It's a little ridiculous,
It's
though.
kind of ridiculous.
It's kind of ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
it's like
go out and make your
it's
own
like, are you
thing.
telling me it's still relevant in the year 2100? The glitch.
I mean,
It's still like a thing that like people are like.
you never
Who
know.
knows? Who knows?
Maybe it's the apocalypse and they run out of videos to make, and
I mean,
these
my-
are the only videos left.
That's where
And
my
it's worth
argument
something.
comes in, that like, Star Wars is huge. Star Wars is a part of everybody's culture growing up, like in America. There's very few people that haven't seen Star Wars. Everybody loves lightsabers. Everybody loves rebels. Like,
Basically, Niko says that Star Wars sucks. Basically,
no. What I'm saying is Star Wars is a
In this video,
cornerstone.
Niko says Star Wars sucks.
No, Star Wars
Timestamp
is
it.
great. The original Star Wars is awesome. It's become a little bit of like virtue signaling for nerds, but anyways, Star Wars has become.
that was a.
It's
burn.
true though. That's totally right.
Star Wars is a part of our culture at this point, and arguably, it should become truly a part of our culture. Just like Santa Claus isn't copyrightable. At a certain point, Star Wars needs to become Santa Claus. And I think that point should have already passed.
Oh, I'd be pissed, though, if I came up with Star Wars and I was like,
You've already made billions and billions of dollars. You've made your money off it at this point.
It's like, hey, who's being like, you've made way too much money.
Here's the thing.
We're going to cut you off,
what
man.
you are saying
the
is that
entire left side of the Democratic Party says that. Just don't worry about that.
I mean, do you think it's right for all the guys over in Greece, modern day Greece, to like be ticked off that like people are printing these free copies of Homer's Odyssey? You know, they're like, my great granddaddy wrote this, and this is BS.
So
I should
a
be making
lifetime
money.
plus 75, right?
Well, a woman
something
tried
like
to do
that.
this with a photograph at Harvard last week.
What did
She sued Harvard because of apparently a Harvard scientist took a photograph of her great grandfather who was a slave in South Carolina, and this tradition in her family had been passed down about how her great grandfather and his daughter took these photos from a Harvard scientist and eventually came to this woman. And this woman is now suing Harvard for the photos as well as for the recognition that that man is her ancestor. Even though photo copyright law in the United States is life of the author plus 25 years or like 70 years from the date of creation or something like that.
Wait,
so the copyright's way past.
So how is there a case again?
Because she filed one in court. Even though a motion for summary judgment is going to dismiss it.
Yeah.
It was still a big news article last week about how this whole thing. We didn't talk about it, but
That's
yeah.
funny.
Anyway,
I guess-
it's like kind of a lost cause basically for her.
it should be according to copyright law.
Yeah,
if they
somehow
follow
it's a news
copyright
story.
law. But well, it's a news story because people were trying to make it racially motivated. I guess she's an ancestor of a slave, yada yada. So that's why.
Time's up.
I guess just to finish what I was saying with Star Wars is that like I think there needs to be a point where I mean that we are this is kind of already in copyright law, but it's a little overly aggressive right now in that it's life of the author plus 75 years. But there needs to be a point where something becomes public culture, and arguably like if my kids are playing with sticks in the backyard and they're pretending they're lightsabers, it feels weird knowing that Disney's like that's mine, that's not yours, you can't. It's not yours, it's mine.
Well, I think it's you profit off of it.
They're not saying that. They're saying, come over here, kid. I got something to sell.
Only I make official lightsabers.
At Disneyland, they have lightsabers that are real.
Yeah. But things like that, when things become hugely parts of culture, and like I said, make your profit off of it. But at a certain point, decades down the line, when just everybody, it's just part of people's lives, then it's not yours anymore. It's the people's. And I think copyright law, if it's going to be aggressive in protecting it, needs to also be aggressive in releasing it and letting it truly be the culture's.
Yeah, definitely.
I have one more
We should
point on this question that I want to ask.
Hold on, we should do a video about the guy who tried to copyright the English language because he invented all the words.
What?
I'm just making this
Oh,
up.
as a video?
I'm just saying.
that-
I'm just
yeah.
saying. Like, conceivably, we're at this territory where it's like I'm gonna make a language, and everyone starts speaking. It's like, ha. It's made me a nickel each time you use a word.
Remember the Happy Birthday song was copywritten for a while.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers tried to be dicks and copyright the Happy Birthday song.
Like that's a good example. I think that's a really good example
Yeah.
of like. I mean, that's
That
like
shouldn't be
that's
somebody's
the distilled version of what I feel
That
like we're
is
talking.
the equivalent of the copywriting
Wait, think
Santa
about
Claus.
a video where a man wrote English, spoken in English. He's like going around trying to get it filed, and he's like, "Look, I need you to file this." And they're like, "Well, what do you want me to?" He's like, "Stop talking."
That'd be a news.
Here's the document.
That'd be a
Read
news
it.
story.
Read it. Don't say a word.
A bunch of journalists would write stories about that.
I do have one more question. This is kind of taking on Clint's point here, which is about the little guy. What happens to the little guy?
Mhm.
If these provisions are too strict
Yeah.
against companies like Google and Facebook, my greatest fear is that it would shut down them from allowing people onto their platform
Yes.
to begin with.
That is a fear of mine too.
Yeah, and that's a really difficult thing for them to deal with right now because you it's like immigration in the United States. It's like a country of immigrants. All these people came onto the platform, they started making things, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, how do we do we need to regulate this? Or do we need to what laws do we need? And it's like, So can you shut the doors? You know, is that like morally right? Is that like right for the company? Is that right for everyone on the platform?
No, it's not really shutting
That
the door.
gave it
It's
a
just
voice.
installing doors in general
Installing
right now.
doors.
Previously, it was a hole in a wall building.
Right, it was
and
like-
people just
yeah.
like they're running in and out with sneakers and stuff, and like
It was just an awning.
it was like yeah. And now there's doors without locks on them.
Right. But they're still using the algorithms to like control what gets seen too.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
there's still this thing. Well, anyone can upload anything, just like anyone. You can say anything. You have freedom of speech, but you know,
Yeah.
ultimately, the algorithm is saying, well, it's not gonna really, you know. That's why most
true.
people upload a video, it gets like 2 views.
Yeah. It's because no one's watching it.
Right, because it's just buried down.
Well, it's never gonna,
deep down.
YouTube's never going to recommend it to
Yeah.
anyone.
Right.
Well,
Which
can't help it.
brings up a good
it does.
segue
But,
to the next
it
topic.
does. But I feel like it might be worth jumping to some of these other hilarious
I got
phrases
some-
you have up here. I think Article 13, guys. We're just gonna have to kind of let this one blow over.
Which one do you want? Pick one, Sam.
We got things like Everest bodies, Jussie Smollett, which I feel like is an open and shut case, which it literally was
It was until
they blew it.
we'll get into that in a little
Anyways,
bit. I want
Hovercraft
to get into
moose-
something funny first.
Hovercraft moose hunt.
Yes.
Youngblood, though.
Yes.
Young-
Okay. Which one? Pick
Hold on,
one.
there's
What do you
What's
want?
Youngblood?
Let's go with Youngblood, dude. Because like
It's not about the
Youngblood-
rapper. It's not about
No,
Youngblood
like
the rapper.
literally like
yes.
Oh, is this like
yes,
about
real
baby
life
blood?
vampires.
teenager blood.
All right.
Oh, yeah,
Here we
young
go.
blood.
Here we go. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has made a request asking people
Please.
to stop buying the blood of young people for the purposes of blood transfusions
Stop.
aimed at improving health.
Stop.
The announcement comes after companies
Stop.
like Ambrosia Health. No, this is a real company. This guy created a company called Ambrosia Health that began
What a
selling
name.
liters of young blood for $8,000 a liter,
Wow.
promising the blood would reverse aging.
Lies.
Like some of my young blood.
Dude, Skin Droops is back.
Anyways, okay.
This one's juicy.
like literal vampires.
So you might remember the Silicon Valley episode where the guy that owns the Google
Yeah.
equivalent has a blood bag, basically.
He's a living young man.
Yeah, and they do regular
Blood
That was
transfusion.
inspired by real things?
Yes, that was
Oh,
inspired
no.
by this because apparently
Silicon Valley, man.
there was a science article about how scientists, I forget what the name of the process is, parabiosis. It's where you stitch 2 animals together, like or parts of animals. And so there was a parabiosis study done with like basically
An old
ins-
animal and a
ins-
young animal.
like yeah, but they were like they were they were inbred.
Did you ever
'cause
see
they're
that Soviet
rats.
Union video where they sewed a dog's head onto another dog?
Okay, so this is what I mean. That's parabiosis in like a
Yeah.
really fucked up form. But so apparently these people did a study. They sewed 2 inbred mice together, and the older one seemed to have some sort of health benefits from it, but the younger one, which they don't talk about, the younger one also got way older.
Wait, I have a question. When they cut them up, or when they stitch them together, did they stitch them together like
Hot dog or hamburger?
Like this or like
Well,
this?
click on the article.
Like-
You can see how they stitched
Like,
them
is
together.
it more humane to like stitch the whole?
They stitched them together side
cut
by
off a
side.
dog.
Side by side. So
side
just
by
scroll
side?
down. There
Okay,
should
see,
be an
that's the
image of
humane
it.
way. It's inhumane to do like a dog head on another dog body.
Or maybe it's in the YouTube video.
You want to do
I
half
don't know.
of 2 half heads together, so both dogs stay alive, and that's
No,
humane.
apparently they stitched them together side by side.
Okay, this
Yeah.
is so jacked up.
Right, it's
But
super
I'm-
jacked. So apparently somebody took this idea and ran with it, and they were like, "Hey guys, parabiosis and blood transfusion makes you younger." And so, like, the FDA had to issue an official statement telling people, like, "Hey, you should probably stop having people buy blood for the purposes of trying to become younger."
I want to see the doctor who did this. I want to see what he looks like to see if he fits every stereotype. I would imagine.
They're only going to show the people that did a study on it.
He probably seems like a Nazi scientist kind of type. Like either very young and like
Hey,
creepy
there's
with
a lot in here in
like a
this
big
video.
scar.
So
He's got a big scar.
He's definitely the snake oil salesman type.
just look for it. Yeah,
Takes
there
the-
you go. There's some parabiosis photos. It's like
Is that a dragonfly?
It's
Wait,
like-
hold on.
it's like a-
Is that a seahorse and a butterfly?
like a bug stitched
Looks like
together
a
with another bug.
Bug and
It's
another
a larva with like. No, that
Uh,
just looks like a butterfly.
So anyway, they yeah. So
God.
Okay.
so that yeah, like
There it is. There's
just
the mouse.
fact that
Oh, no, you
this is
passed it.
happening is wacky, wild, and weird, and it feels like it's something that would only happen in Silicon Valley. But I mean, if there was a cure for aging, would you guys take it?
Oh yeah.
I would think so.
I mean,
I think so,
only
but like I'd have to think about it.
It's called exercise and eating your vegetables.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Exactly.
like,
But if
No,
you could
there was a-
absorb another life force that was younger than yours,
right,
Wasn't that with stem cell?
like a
Isn't that stem cells?
vampire. This is vampire.
for every soul
No,
of
stems-
life you cut
No,
short,
I
you
wouldn't.
gain it.
Stem
I
cells-
wouldn't absorb other souls.
Stem cells regenerate your cells,
Mhm.
so like you're not absorbing the life force of another thing.
Unless you get your stem cells from.
Stem cells?
Unless
Like, you're not
you get your
absorbing
stem
the
cells
life
from a
force.
baby.
Stem cells
which-
are like blueprint cells.
But there are, just for the record, there are clean. A lot of people think stem cells, they think abortion, they think wrong.
Yeah.
Stem cells, there's actually a lot of clean forms of stem cells that are out there that are existing. It's very what's it called? Taboo in the United States because of
Mhm.
a lot. We're very like anti-abortion here, but there is healthy, like morally correct ways that stem cells are being done.
Did you ever hear about that? That like stem cell like spray gun that they would use for people who had burns, and they could
Yeah.
basically just spray stem cells on like the where the skin grafts would go, and like in like 6 days it would be healed.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's some.
It's very expensive, but it's
very
out and working now.
Okay, so then-
powerful forms of.
How is this different? How is young blood different? Especially since it's
Well,
like
stem
hey,
cells are cells that become any cell.
This is like
no, but like morally, like
Well, this doesn't
If
do
you-
anything.
here's
okay.
Here's
This is actually very
this is junk
dangerous.
science.
According to the there's a married couple at the University of Berkeley that studied this, and it's like apparently very dangerous, and it's doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's
This is like essential oils to
it's
cure
like-
cancer. It's
yeah,
taking
it's like
advantage of
snake.
people's
This is
fear
like
to make
snake
money.
oil science, basically.
So if it did work, let's
Right.
just say if it did
okay.
work,
Yeah.
what's wrong with it?
Nothing.
Well, you're making a young person older.
Wait, no,
by
you're not
taking
giving
their-
them your blood.
Yeah.
no. Your
That's-
blood doesn't go to them.
No, you just
take the
It's,
blood
it's,
and you.
it's just the same as like
Yeah.
donating blood.
Yeah.
If it did,
To a young
if
person.
it did work, so that does. If it did work, would you use it?
Maybe you'll try it out.
maybe I was like
Try it
75.
Maybe
I don't know.
when-
That's tough because it's like, yeah, like maybe when I'm like super old, my goal one of my goals in life is to stretch every day and be super healthy, eat healthy, and live
Take other people's blood.
a long life.
You
I
already
wanna-
take people's blood if you're in the
People
hospital and you need it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's
Well,
nothing
that's
wrong with
Different
that.
as a medical cure,
Exactly, it's a medical cure.
and medical cure for aging,
yeah.
right?
but
Yeah.
aging isn't
It's
a problem.
Well,
it's a huge
yeah, it
problem.
is.
It's the biggest problem.
Aging
It's
is
the
it's a
number one
big-
killer of everything.
It's guaranteed. So, I think
so.
I think it's
That begs the question. Like, as what kind of person are you? Are you a person who would say, "Give me the anti-aging so I can live till I'm 200 or forever,"
If
or not?
if your face was all wrinkly and someone was like, "I'll sell you the skin on my face for $20,000," would you purchase it?
No.
no.
So me personally, I would have to consider it, but I don't think I would. I don't think I would because, like, regardless, your life is finite, and I feel like you're cheating yourself by, like,
What if-
taking anti-aging.
I'd take a little bump.
What
You take a
if
bump.
I'd take a little
You
bump.
What
could
if
take a bump.
I could turn this whole thing into a convenient subscription service where every
Sent to your
month
house in a
you
box.
get 1 liter of young blood?
Red apron.
It's red apron.
Red
Yes,
apron.
where we have real doctors that scan your body and they
Prove it.
match you
Yeah.
with a younger body type that matches your blood.
Just want to put it back out there. This doesn't work. Once again, just let
So
everybody know.
once
this
a
doesn't work.
month, you get a bag and a needle, and there's no hassle, and you can send the blood back at any time.
No, I thought they.
See, now you buy it.
I don't know.
I thought
man.
they did test. I thought they like tested
Dollar
on
Blood
mice
Club.
and rats. No, I thought they tested on mice and rats and stuff. That like you can try and look up the articles. I don't know, but like, that yeah, taking the blood from a younger mouse into the blood of into an older mouse
Well, they were inbred mice.
So this is the
Well,
this
this is different. This is like stitching two together. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about taking the younger blood of a young mice into an aging mouse, and you start to see.
I don't think they ever did that.
Yeah.
I have to look it up.
Also,
Yeah, I don't
human
know.
beings are very different than mice.
That's of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Is basically like inbred mice, lab rats are almost genetically exactly the same. So what the research couple said in this article was that that also played a huge factor in that study.
Yeah.
Is because they were so genetically similar that like giving them the same blood or stitching them together or whatever they did was more likely to be beneficial because of how similar they were. Whereas humans obviously were not all inbred, so that's not going to function.
So it needs to be like son parent kind of relationships. You make a spare kid.
So, like, it sounds like just the same situation you get in with, like, blood marrow or
I'm
bone marrow
joking. I'm
donation.
joking. God. By the way, full disclaimer: everything I say on this podcast is a joke. Everything, except the facts. All right.
But yeah, this doesn't sound any different than, like, say, a bone marrow donation.
Yeah, basically, it's basically just like a plasma
Okay.
donation, and I
Okay.
did that. I did
You're
that
right.
back in college.
If it worked,
The question is, would you do it? Like morally.
if
like,
it worked, and I was really old, and you could use it as a way to age gracefully, I would probably use it. But I wouldn't use it to just like fucking live forever. I think that's just people that want to live forever. I don't know. I don't trust those people.
Maybe they're just really happy.
No one's that happy, Niko.
Honestly, they just don't have. They're just trying to find something to spend their billions on.
I think it's a question of how's life going for you? And then do you believe in an afterlife? I think those are two questions.
Right.
That-
So yeah, being that life's going pretty good, and I do believe in an afterlife, I'd probably be like, you know what, I'm good. Just
Yeah.
like maybe like if I got in a bad car accident and I would have died, and I'm 70, and this will keep me alive for another couple of years, and I can like, basically overcome that incident in my life,
Yeah.
then I'd be
Wouldn't it be
something
funny?
like that. But
You would do it?
It would
in that case?
probably, yeah.
It would be really funny if they find out that this works, and it like you actually slowly get a little bit bigger the longer you do it. And so like there's these like extra large, like 8 foot, like immortal people walking around. It's like
They lose their hair. Like,
Yeah, it's like you can
Get
tell you're
really
a billionaire when you're like 9 feet tall and like handsome and young looking
Dude,
still.
that guy must be a
Squidward
trillionaire. He's
is-
9 feet tall and he looks 20.
It's that episode of SpongeBob when Squidward
Wait, there's a 20-foot tall person that looks like a baby.
There's a 30-foot tall like Gandalf kind of guy. He's like, I've been alive since 1980, and it's like the year like 3000.
Yeah.
You know, I tried to give blood back in college, and I said I couldn't ever give blood because I happened to have been in Europe when Mad Cow was happening. And there's no way
Did they forget? Did they forget about that?
I have a feeling that's like it's no longer a thing. Like I probably could give blood now, but they said that since they can't test you for mad cow until after you're dead, by only doing they have to do a brain biopsy to see if you have it.
No.
Yeah, so that like they can't test you for it. So if you're in Europe for a certain amount of time, for a certain span of years, you just can't donate blood.
Whoa.
Did they
And-
like pencil
and-
that in? Like
That's on your
give blood.
permanent record.
You're probably fine.
I'm probably okay, but
You
you never
probably
know.
don't have mad cow.
Maybe it explains some things, guys.
All right. Do you want another goofy topic, or do you want to talk about Jussie Smollett and
I
what
don't think
actually
we need.
happened?
I think-
we need to talk about him.
I think all I want to say about that
Let's
is-
keep it short.
it's the same shit with Article 13, which is everybody likes getting their panties in a bunch over stuff.
Oh no, this is totally different.
This is way different.
You know
No,
what?
set
You
it
know
up
what?
first. Set it up first.
All right.
What's going down?
Jussie
Alright.
Smollett was a guy that faked getting beat up so
Yes.
that he could make
So-
But look how you just.
So he
you
was
said
in-
exactly what happened.
So he by all accounts, he was indicted. So I'll just give you the facts. He was indicted by a grand jury of his peers on 16 felony counts for filing a false police report. What did he file a false police report about? That was the cause for the indictment. It was what appeared to be a staged hate crime.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I actually reverse?
He
really-
staged a hate crime against himself, is the way that the indictment goes.
Dang.
And in an effort to bolster his basically limelight and his career.
Yeah, he faked being the victim of a hate crime, basically.
Yes.
Well, no. He was
As a-
indicted.
As a gay,
But hold on.
he's a gay black man who faked
Let's
a
talk
hate
about
crime
indicted.
against him for being gay and black.
How do you
basically.
get indicted by a grand jury? Like what is that? What is that? What is indicted?
So
and
here's
who's
an
the
indictment.
grand jury?
Here's an indictment. I'll tell you what it is. It's this is the 6th Amendment, I think. Could be the 7th. Regardless, an indictment happens as follows. Police pull you in for something. They're like, we think you were the bad guy that did something. It's like, well, due process requires that you have your day in court. So if the evidence stands, it needs to withstand a certain threshold. So what a grand jury indictment is they bring in like 12 people that are like,
Different age groups, different all across.
well, no, it's like people of your peers. It's like they bring in 12 people who are
Like your
like are
best
like
friends?
you. No, 12 people that are similarly situated.
Okay.
And they say, here's the can that we found at the scene of the crime where that's got the poison in it. And you were there, and this is all we know at this time. But is this enough to pass the threshold of like,
Does it stand?
does it stand?
Do we have a case here?
Do we have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
case?
yeah.
So it's not. They're not saying you're guilty.
Yeah.
They're just saying, given that evidence and given this, we vote that that there's a case here. That's it.
We'll look into it deeper.
And that's called an
kinda thing.
indictment. If that stands, that's called an indictment.
So you were
and then,
indicted?
and now you're indicted, and now prosecution has a right to prosecute the case against you.
So then you go to court again.
So if an indictment doesn't stand, you're off. You're done. You can go home.
Yeah. Okay. So
So
he
that's
was
what it
indicted.
means.
He was
Basically,
indicted.
Yes, he was indicted on 16 accounts.
That means what-
felony accounts.
Yeah.
So only 16 people or 16 different
16 different crimes.
16
16
wow.
different felony crimes. A felony, you can go to jail for 3 to 5 years.
things. And one of these is faking.
No.
And like
Basically-
they're all based upon this this incident
I
that
see, I see, I
happened.
see.
Basically, they presented this incident to that jury, and the jury was like, "Yes, we could conceive that
That there's a case.
that there's a case for these
Yeah.
16 different criminal acts."
Got you.
Right.
Not proven. It's not proven.
It's not
but
proven,
Right.
But
I
at a
got you.
So
cursory
then,
glance,
to make this even more ridiculous,
Things take a
the,
twist.
the Chicago mayor, Rahm Emanuel, who, if people want to say that this is politically motivated, I'll give you some evidence, okay? Rahm Emanuel was President Obama's chief of staff. He's a blue dog Democrat from Chicago. He's like one of the down homies from the blue side. He stood up with the Chicago chief of police, and they said basically that this is a whitewash of justice for people of notoriety and fame to get treated one way while others get treated another. He said those words on camera to the press, very clearly saying, like, we presented, our detectives went out, got evidence on this case. Because remember when this first happened,
Wait,
the chief...
did you leave out a key detail here?
he didn't say the crime was the whitewash. He says
They
The-
dropped all
the-
charges.
okay,
bond,
so-
the dropping of
yeah.
So
the
this is
charge.
the twist: is
Yeah.
he was indicted, and then
Right.
just recently, all charges were dropped, and the case is sealed, so no one will ever get to look at the evidence.
Yes.
He's completely let go.
and he's
Yeah.
let off not guilty. So
Right.
despite the 16 counts that he's indicted on,
no trial, none of that. Just completely like, okay, we're done. Go bye. It's
Right.
done. It's over.
Everyone go home.
and so when
Nothing happened
They
here.
just cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Covered it up.
Nothing happened.
so something happened along the way.
He paid $10,000 bond and surrendered that.
Yes.
So he
Yes,
paid
he
$10,000.
paid $10,000 bond
So he
and
gave
surrendered.
up his bond.
He gave
yeah.
up his bond, and as a condition of giving up his bond, they sealed the case and sent him home.
So he cut his losses.
No, something.
Well-
no, something happened.
Here's so everybody's going out and saying like, oh, this is just another example of rich people getting treated differently and of famous people getting treated differently. And while that certainly is true that rich and famous people are treated differently, most likely because they can hire a good lawyer team. I think what this speaks to, because there's plenty of also rich people that get in trouble. This speaks to the prosecution messing something up, and then as they were going to court, people going, "Oh, this is not going to stand up well," and you guys are going to be super embarrassed, and the city of Chicago is going to have egg on its face. The best bet you guys can do is pack it up, don't let anybody look at it, and just walk away.
That's probably that could be what happened. I'm not saying that that's probably what happened, but all I know is
You
that
had the chief of police going out there and basically saying this guy is guilty before.
yeah, well, but before the evidence came out that he may have done this against himself, when it first happened, the chief of police said, "I have no reason to believe that he's being dishonest in any way," and then boom, a couple days later, turns out, oh, maybe. So it's not like the chief of police immediately took a side or something. He was just like, well, we'll see what happens here. It sounds like this guy's got a case, and we need to look into it. And then they looked into it, and they were like, actually, we think he did it. And then the case got shut down. State prosecution was like, we're not moving forward. Close the case. And then he's like, and then him and Rahm Emanuel came out, and they were like, pretty sure this happened, and can't believe that it's ending this way. So who knows? Because it's not like Rahm Emanuel doesn't talk to the state prosecutor, and if there is that egg on the face evidence, as you're saying, that would be a bad look. Why would he come out so strongly and say that?
Well, I don't know.
Think it's just a political maneuver?
I mean, it's worth mentioning. I mean, it's maybe not his fault, so he could be saying, like, this is definitely a miscarriage of justice, et cetera, et cetera. But I think at the end of the day, anything we say is just assumption. And, like, yeah, it sucks that it's not going to court. It should have gone to court. Somebody screwed up. But I think to immediately jump to the conclusion that it's like, oh, yeah, some corruption's happening. He's getting paid off. He's a rich guy, et cetera. Like, I think that's just jumping to your own internal narrative.
I don't see that headline though, really either. That there's like some like rich guy conspiracy thing going. It's like it's everyone.
He's trying to get him to save face or something.
No, I'm just saying like I don't actually think that's the narrative that I've seen here. I feel like
I've certainly seen a good amount of that narrative, but. Either way.
It's a wild situation.
Either way, somebody effed up big time.
So you think it's going to come back?
Yeah.
Or do you think it's...
I think it's done.
No, it's done.
Yeah,
They
I think
put
it's
it
moving to a
bed. The
civil
judge
suit.
already...
It looks like they're considering doing a civil suit
Oh,
against
yeah,
them
you
to
could do
recoup
that, yeah.
recoup all the money that they spent on his investigation.
Mm-hmm. So just for those of you who don't know, the same thing happened in the O.J. Simpson trial. He was not convicted of a crime, but...
Not convicted of murder.
Yes.
Found not guilty of murder.
The threshold for proving is less in civil cases, so non-criminal cases. The burden is the highest. You must prove beyond a reasonable doubt. But in civil cases, usually it's just by a preponderance of the evidence, which is just usually like more than 50%.
It's a little looser.
So yeah, so they could say, so the city could go after him to say, you did this, but in civil court rather than as a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could still move forward. He could still owe large amounts of money to the city if they went after him that way. I don't know.
And that's why the O.J. Simpson case is brought up, because he was found not guilty, and then he was basically the civil case found guilty in civil court and was forced to pay a bunch of money.
Funny thing is, he moved to Florida where you can avoid a lot of those payments.
Yeah, and then he robbed somebody with a gun.
And then he actually just got out of jail, I think, for that.
That's so funny.
But
good times.
Another funny story is, so he moved to Florida basically to avoid paying the fines, which is scummy. But he made that book, the If I Did It book, to make some money. And Nicole Brown's family's like, hey, wait a minute. We own this book because we own all of you and all the money you make. So actually, since you haven't paid us, this book is now ours. And then they took the if I part and made it really tiny on the front page. So it just says, I did it, O.J. Simpson.
I didn't know that was their choice to like mess with the text.
Yeah, because I don't think they could change the title, but they could definitely change the font size.
Who came to him and said, we own you and you own the...
The family of Nicole Brown, who was murdered by O.J. Simpson. They won the civil suit because like he hasn't paid them the money that they're owed.
You're talking about O.J.?
Yeah.
I'm talking about Jussie Smollett.
No, not Jussie Smollett. Sorry.
Sorry.
OJ hasn't paid Nicole Brown's money the money they're owed.
That's a really funny story.
That's
a really funny story.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess there was a lot of people after the OJ case that like saw him and hung out with him and had firsthand communication with him afterwards. And the big thing that they seemed to say was, oh, this guy really did it. This is fucked up. And so I wonder if the same thing's going to happen here, where people he goes back to now talk to him and they go, oh, this is fucked up. This guy.
Oh, of course they are.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be so surprised to see Jussie Smollett in any sort of like acting thing from here on out.
It's over.
It's done. His career is done.
I don't even know who this dude is.
Don't sweat it then.
He was an actor? He is an actor?
He was on
just
the
after
show
the podcast,
Empire.
Take a read
with
HBO?
Terrence Howard,
HBO,
the music show about the music family that owns the record company.
Oh, okay.
Well, dang.
Anyways.
Guys, Looking at the
I'm out
time.
of touch, guys. I'm out of touch.
I'm about to turn into a little pumpkin
Let's
here.
do one more. Come
Everest?
on.
We talking going Everest?
Yeah.
Do you
Hovercraft?
want to talk about a man hunting a moose on a hovercraft or dead bodies on Everest?
I can do. I'll use your choice for.
I read a great article about dead bodies on Everest, actually.
Yeah.
Did you?
I think I shared it
let's
with
do
you.
both. Sam, let us do both.
9 minutes.
All right. Let's start with Everest.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Apparently, the treacherous journey to the summit of Mount Everest is riddled with dead bodies, and melting glaciers are revealing dozens of them. While nearly 5,000 people have successfully climbed the mountain, another 300 are thought to have died along the way, and removing the bodies is a delicate, dangerous, and extremely costly task.
We're not going up there.
In addition to having legal constraints, including a Nepali law requiring government agencies to be involved in dealing with the removal of the bodies.
Get this body off my mountain.
So, what kind of person are you? Would the sight of dead bodies encourage you to keep climbing or discourage
Absolutely.
you from trying to go further?
Nah. Pay respects. Dude, step up. These people died on this mountain.
But what if it's like a warning? It's like, hey, idiot, you just passed 18 dead bodies.
Nope.
Where are you going?
Nope.
Yeah.
Going up. These people gave their lives to climb this mountain. I'm going to the top. I'm going to keep...
What if you just end up like one of them?
So be it.
So be it. So if you climb Mount Everest, you better be ready to die.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It's not a walk in the park. I'll do Everest. Hey, what are you doing this week? I don't know Everest.
Isn't Everest technically a
Leave
park?
the bodies. Leave the bodies.
Okay, what's the question? Like,
Wait,
these bodies
I
are
guess,
taken.
I think here's the question.
Well,
In how
Leave the
many
bodies,
years is
dude.
it going to take for there to be
Disrespect.
No.
How are you gonna move my corpse?
No. Let me explain. Let me
Don't
pose,
touch my corpse,
Let me
dude.
pose a deeper question. How many years will it be before there are so many bodies on Everest that it's unclimbable?
Just climb the bodies.
No, that's the point. That's the point.
we could do a little quick
It's
math
like
on that.
it's like a
Hey, Jared, I
it's
put
like
a
a
link
pit.
at the bottom of the
It's like you're in a
doc when
temple,
you click on it.
and you're trying to get like a secret artifact, and you go across this like spiked pit trap, but there's so many bodies that have already fallen into
you
it
don't touch the
that you can
spikes.
kind of walk across
Yeah.
it.
Leave me. If I die on it, leave me there.
Well, that's your right. It's your right. Apparently everyone like goes up
Lame.
like you sign something or you tell whatever organization you're a part of
That's
going
intense.
up how
You
what
have
you
to-
want to happen to your body if you die.
And you have to leave like an emergency contact.
yeah. It's
they
just
print
like
out a
it's just
shirt.
like high school.
Print out a
Leave an
shirt.
emergency
and they
contact.
print out a dirt T-shirt with your name on it.
Yeah.
So
that you have to wear.
I just want to interject real quick here. There is a fantastic news article on New York Times. It's actually on the website, and I suggest you read it on the website because the way they've laid it out is great. Talking about 2 doctors from India that died on the mountain, and India put forth this big effort to actually get the bodies down.
Great. Yeah. Go do it.
Amidst but a lot of the controversy was like you're risking the Sherpas' lives, you're making a big fuss out of this, etc. But it became important as kind of a publicity stunt for India to make this happen and like show that they were going to get these bodies back. But the article is
Indians left behind.
the article is incredibly well written, and the crazy thing is, so there's GoPros on the guys' heads that did this climb and eventually died. So there's pictures all the way up, and you can see like the last moments when like this is the last time we saw them, and then we found them outside, and like there's parts where like they would hear them just like screaming as they went crazy like out in the snow.
Whoa.
Because they would lose like their oxygen and blood flow, and they're just like "Bah!" like out in.
That is terrifying.
Yeah, it's an incredible article.
Wait.
I suggest everybody read it.
People could hear them.
Wait,
they
what
were
is this?
within earshot.
This
but they
sounds
couldn't
so
help them.
crazy.
Yeah, because you're in your tent on the peak, like not quite the peak, but like the stop before the peak, and it's nighttime,
Dude,
and the
could
wind
you
is
imagine?
howling, and you're like, I can't go out there and look for them. It's pitch black on the side of Everest.
Oh, it's like hell.
It's like
Yeah.
World War
Okay.
One business.
and I
Yeah,
hear the
well,
howling
World War
wind,
One.
or potentially my howling friend.
Right.
That is
Yeah.
so intense, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's used to happen in World War One all the time. Is people would end up in these shell holes in the middle of no man's land, and they'd be half injured,
Yeah.
and it would take them sometimes days to
Gosh.
die.
Oh God. That's crazy and really messed up. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the thing. It's like if you can defeat that mountain,
I think. I mean,
big
What
ups
does
to
that
you.
say about you, though? If you like feel the need to do that, it's like
the big thing that kills people on
Man.
Everest is that they don't know their limits, B, they aren't following protocol, and C, it's expensive, and like half the time you can't climb because of weather or some other issue comes up, and people are like, I paid $100,000 for this, screw it, and that's what gets people killed.
Right.
If you
That makes sense.
follow the rules and you're careful, like you have a good chance of making
Mother
it out of
Nature
there alive.
doesn't give a shit about your $100,000.
But yeah, like these doctors, for example, like they got off to a late start to get to the peak. So by the time they're coming down, it got dark, and like that's a big no-no. Like there's a cutoff time. It's like you do not go to the peak from this camp past this time, and they left past that time because they were got going late. They were going slow, etc. You know, not physically in the condition you need
you
to
gotta
be.
think slow in that situation. You can't get aggressive.
And you know they're never going to get another chance to get back to this mountain, and they had dreamed of it for years, and so they went, screw it, let's do it.
Well, you know what? I think it's a good message from this story is that rules aren't a human construct. You know, I don't think it's not like just because rules aren't just there to create civility and peace, but it's also for the sake of like survival and safety and all this stuff.
Don't eat that berry.
Wait,
Don't
rules,
eat that berry.
Don't eat that
rules
berry.
aren't a human construct?
Rules aren't a human construct.
What do you mean by
Like
that?
the laws of gravity.
I'm just saying, like, when I see someone cut me off in the freeway or drive on the shoulder to skip traffic, they're
Yeah.
like, rules don't exist, And like, I'm like, well, I think about it, and it's like, rules are a reason. And you see these guys, and they're like, don't go past this time. And they're like, we're gonna still go past this time. It's like, no, like, it's not like rules aren't.
You mean
I think
like
I see
the
what you're
law
saying,
of
like-
nature?
Like, I'm just saying, like, rules as a concept. A lot of people like to think that they don't exist, or they're
I see.
they are above them as like a concept. But you start to get to these points in these situations, and you're like, no, it's like it's literal death as like the consequence here, not just like
Yeah.
a speeding ticket or something or a fine or
some-
an angry look.
Well, that becomes the difference between malum prohibitum or malum in se.
Ooh.
Sam.
did you just cast a spell on Sam?
No, malum prohibitum, they talk about this in True Grit, but it's true. In law, there's the concept called malum prohibitum and malum in se. Malum prohibitum means it's bad because it's prohibited, malum prohibitum, or it's bad because it's inherently bad, malum in se. It's bad because it is bad.
Like, don't go in that fire.
Yeah. So
Don't eat that berry.
that is the way that law looks at rules effectively from like the dawn of law.
Sounds like Sam's talking about some malum and say.
Malum and se.
Sam, you're most certainly talking about that.
Talking about Malum and se.
Talking about that malum in se.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, boys.
Wait, one more, Sam. The
right.
Supreme Court on Tuesday ruled unanimously that an Alaska man may use a hovercraft while hunting moose on public land.
Hovercrafts are just balloon boats.
Now, apparently, the National Park Service had barred a man from
was too
using
good.
the craft.
He was too good.
These are not aerial spaceships.
But what this comes down to is jurisdiction, because it's not that the Supreme Court is saying everyone can hunt moose on hovercraft. It was that the National Park Service said, hey, you can't hunt moose on that thing on our land. And it turns out that it wasn't their land. So they didn't have the jurisdiction to say that. That's why it was a unanimous decision. But it makes a good headline for people to say, like, Supreme Court says you can hunt moose with hovercraft. So my question is, if you could hunt anything on any motorcraft with any weapon, what would it be?
I'd hunt ants with a one wheel and a bazooka.
Whoa.
I would hunt robots on an ATV with a pistol.
That's pretty sweet.
What kind of pistol?
J18C?
Probably Beretta 9mm.
Okay. Sam?
I would hunt like psychotic, like evil monkeys that are like taking over and like infesting someplace with a hang glider and one handheld nuclear bomb.
You'd be screwed, dude.
Hell yeah.
No, I just hold on tight once it blows, then I'll get pushed away.
I'd play the most dangerous game with Theodore Roosevelt
Oh,
and a shotgun.
I think you're gonna
Your
die.
vehicle, though. Your vehicle.
That's what he's saying to me. That's what I'm saying to him. We'll find out.
The vehicle. What's the vehicle?
Oh, jalopies.
So it's probably like on a racetrack.
I thought maybe you'd ride a bull moose just to spite him.
Good one, Jarrett.
Good times.
Hey, we'll have the link to that New York Times article in the description of this episode if you guys want to check it
If
out.
you want to like get a chill down your spine.
It's a really good article.
All right,
Sounds
boys.
jacked up.
Well, once again, thanks for joining us here, and consider hitting that notification Bell, if you're watching this on YouTube, I also noticed some of you guys aren't subscribed, as in half of you that are watching this video aren't subscribed. So please consider subscribing, whether you're watching on YouTube or just listening audio only. Also, if you're listening audio only, consider listening on Castbox. They're great.
All right.
That's it.
Cool.
Sweet.
Bye-bye.
Bye.